Welcome. Episode 3.
3.
We've made it.
I-
Well, our
Maybe.
listeners have made it. We're doing fine.
Maybe it's just the two of us talking to each other. We don't know still.
This is just
we won't know
us
until
hanging
after the
out.
episode airs
We
how many
just-
people listen to
we just
it.
have to speak into a microphone, so we're fine.
Yes, we're great.
We're great.
Yes, we've made it to
We've
episode
made
3.
it. Right. Well, I'm Kyle,
I'm Jackie.
and we are two tired
tired
therapists. Yes, we are. Jackie, what's tired this week?
Oh, I think I'm gonna go with allergies.
Allergies.
I am a chronic allergy sufferer ever since I've moved to this undisclosed state that we live in.
This god-awful
Yeah.
state that we live in.
Pretty much. This is a very interesting story that I will keep very short. I didn't have allergies. I didn't ever have allergies my whole life
Tell us
until I
about
moved.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, when I moved to this undisclosed location,
Mhm.
I all of a sudden had all sorts of afflictions and allergies that I never had my whole life, including being allergic to dogs, which I grew up with a dog, and I did not care for that. So, and what that has transformed into is that I'm almost allergic to everything that is outdoors in this undisclosed state. So it's very annoying, and then all of a sudden I will get very congested and stuffed up, and nothing helps. So I'm tired with
Yeah.
allergies this week.
I wish I could sympathize with you as a privileged
Non-transplant to this undisclosed location.
Well, I don't know if I would. Is that better? I don't know, but maybe. I mean, I'm immune to whatever is outside. It's like the
Yeah.
Upside Down in Stranger Things. I'm
yeah,
immune to this place.
Yes, it's and I actually have met a lot of people who don't live in this state or aren't from the state that when they moved here, all of a sudden they had tons of allergies. I'm not alone in
There's
this.
a lot of bullshit in the air around here.
It's probably that too.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I'm allergic to the bullshit. It's actually very.
I
accurate
think
for
that's
me.
what it is.
What
that's
are you?
what it
What
is.
are you tired of this week?
Oh, well, I think on a similar vein, vaping. What are we doing?
Oh.
And not just if you have your little your
Juul?
your little jewel. Okay, fine, whatever, go for it. But I'm talking
Why
the
is it named
people.
Juul? I don't understand why with the Juul. That doesn't make any sense to me.
It probably stands for something.
I'm sure it does.
Or somebody's name. I don't know.
It's a singer.
No, but specifically, I think the people who have these gigantic like that look like a piece of the space shuttle that took Bruce Willis up to the asteroid that he
Yes.
had to destroy and
Yes.
spoiler alert, give his life to destroy.
Yes.
Like that, like these just why?
See, to me,
What are we doing?
well, that also the I don't want to call them flavors, but I guess they are flavors.
The flavors.
The flavors that are random,
like
you
root
know,
beer.
or like Fruity Pebbles. Like I had a
Ugh.
friend who would vape, and it was Fruity Pebbles,
Ugh.
and
I don't get it.
I
Just eat Fruity Pebbles.
Yeah, it just didn't make
Yeah.
sense to me. I didn't.
Why do you need to inhale it?
Well, then we all had to inhale
And look
it in
stupid.
the car. It was
And
really.
you look dumb, right? You look dumb.
Well, then,
Like at least smoking, okay. Sometimes it looks cool. Okay, whatever, fine. Yeah, sometimes it is pretty
unpopular
cool.
opinion.
Unpopular opinion.
It kind of looks
Sometimes,
cool.
unless I'm trying to date you or really anything other than just look at you from far away.
So I was gonna say, look at you from afar. Yes.
But vaping,
No.
it doesn't. What do you do? Do you think you look cool?
Isn't it like very bad for your lungs? Like
Yeah, you get that
kills
popcorn lung.
people?
Get that
Yeah.
popcorn lung. Mm-hmm. Because you're
ugh.
basically inhaling a piece of cotton that's on fire. Like that's how they work. There's
I've
like
never
a piece
actually
of cotton
looked
in
into
them.
the science of
Yeah.
vaping because I just what it is the flavors that I
Because
can't
there's
get
like I think
over.
there's like a piece of like cotton or some kind of thing that the flavoring gets soaked into, like a Q-tip or something, and then that gets vaporized and you inhale it.
Gross. That's
I don't care about that. I'm just. What do you got these big contraptions? What are you doing?
It's to look cool.
It doesn't look cool though.
I know. Nothing
It's
ever
tired.
does.
It's tired.
It is
It's tired.
Yeah,
It's
it
tired.
is.
So
But-
that's where I'm at. Vaping. You're dying of allergies. I'm bitching about people who are vaping. We
It's
are not the
almost-
same.
It's almost on the same line, though. I mean, you could make an argument that
You
it's
could.
airborne
You could.
things.
You could.
I love that.
Jackie, what are we talking about today? This
Oh,
is the second
this is
of
our
our trilogy.
Yes, this is the second installment
Mhm,
of
the second installment.
of the personality disorder trilogy.
Mm.
Which I think
Mhm.
this episode, I'm gonna wager that this one might be the most interesting and
Yeah.
most
Juicy.
and hopefully fun to listen to for everyone
Yeah.
who's hearing this right now.
Yeah.
Maybe not.
Hopefully. Or it could be
Yes.
revealing. I don't know. I don't know.
I mean,
we'll see.
again, we'll do same rules apply as
Yes.
last episode. So don't listen to this and then diagnose yourself.
Mhm.
Don't diagnose other people. If it really
Don't diagnose us.
right, we'll do that ourselves later at
Yeah,
the end of
that's
the episode.
at the end of the episode.
Right, that's the end of that's the theme. Just listen to this. We're trying to give this in a way that is very easy. We're not going through the DSM. We're not going very brass tacks with it,
but still educational to a point that you're not making TikToks and saying,
yes,
"Oh, I have a personality disorder because I like the color green." Like, don't do that.
Yeah, please don't. I don't want to see your dancing TikTok people out there. I just don't want to see it where you're like, I have this, and I know we reference this all the time, but this is what the
It
kids
really
do.
is tired. It's another tired thing.
Yes.
Okay.
So today's the cluster Bs.
The cluster bees.
As Kyle said, it's the most juicy.
the juicy.
So the cluster Bs are
Mhm.
our antisocial,
Mhm.
our borderline, our narcissistic, and our histrionic personality disorders.
Mhm. Yep. These are the self-esteem ones. Right? The
Yes.
low self-esteem ones.
Yes.
And you may be asking yourself, "Oh, a narcissist has low self-esteem?"
Oh.
Yes, honey.
Yes, I was gonna say, oh
Oh,
honey,
honey.
oh honey.
You got a big storm coming. Mhm.
Tell me, Kyle, what is your experience in working with
I-
cluster Bs?
Yeah, I think this is where it's the most common. But again, like we talked about in the first episode, people are not waking up and
Right.
saying, "Ooh, I'm a narcissist. I need to go to therapy."
No.
If only. Oh, that'd be great. No, I would say these people are usually coming because they're having issues in relationships and don't really know why. Would you agree?
Yes, I would agree with that, and I would say,
Especially your borderline and your narcissist.
I was gonna say
Yeah.
your antisocial people, which we'll talk about.
We'll talk about.
Are probably most of them are likely in some type of correctional facility.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there's that. So okay, so I know you have some. We've talked about it before, but you've had some experience. I have.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, definitely. I think borderline is a big one that you see in therapy a lot, because these are also the trauma-based personalities,
Yes.
right? So
Yes.
these personality disorders, again, the hit comes out when I say that. Do you hear personality disorders? Personality disorders typically have a significant trauma
Yes.
history
Yes.
in these. So
Yes.
and typically, I think if abuse, I think
Yeah.
is typically
Yeah.
the most common, but could
Mhm.
be other things.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely borderline, definitely narcissism. I can't say I've had antisocial. I can't think of any. None come to mind. I think that would be a pretty clear one. Now you
Yes.
might have a
I'm
lot to
getting
say
so
on that
I'm
topic.
getting so excited.
And histrionic,
It's not.
Mm.
Histrionic's a little less common. I've seen it. I've seen
Yeah.
it more so in traits of people with other personality
yeah, I don't
stuff.
think it's as
I've
clear
never.
cut.
I don't think I've ever met
yeah.
somebody who that was their primary diagnosis.
No, it's not. I don't think it's clear cut as the DSM would say.
No.
I'd
Well,
say it
no,
is.
it's not. Yeah, I'm getting so excited because this is my favorite.
Well, let's jump into it.
Well, let me tell you though.
Oh, okay.
So.
Oh yeah, what's your experience?
Prison.
Sorry.
Hashtag prison.
Hashtag prison.
So yes, so when I worked in the prison, my caseload was half SMI,
Mm-hmm.
half personality disorders,
Mm-hmm.
and my caseload at any given time was between like 30 and 40 people. So
Persistent.
persistent,
Se-
serious and
serious-
persistent,
yeah.
as we said in the first
Mhm.
episode.
Mhm.
So I worked with offenders with antisocial, borderline, narcissistic. If they had all three, we called that the trifecta. And I did have a
trifecta.
few people on my caseload who had the trifecta. Let me tell you, it is one of the worst experiences.
Yeah, how did that
of-
Is it just like they kind of switch between, or just kind of blend all three at once and call it a day?
I had one offender who, so it was very interesting the way that it just played out for him. So his behaviors were very antisocial.
Mm-hmm.
His relational, I guess, I don't know, was very borderline.
Okay.
And the how he viewed himself and his very self-image was very narcissistic.
Interesting.
So it was very difficult to have any sort of conversation with them whatsoever, because there
Mhm.
was it wouldn't go anywhere because they thought they were better than you.
Of course.
And then
Right.
it devolved into
right.
I'm better than you, but
Yeah.
I would never do it again. It's tough. It's tough. If there are people out there who work with people of all three, I highly say kudos to you because it was not easy. I think I had
No.
maybe 2 on my whole time in the prison, and it was rough. And histrionic, I had somebody who had like traits of it, but not a full blown diagnosis. So they also, I feel like the cluster Bs kind of bleed into each other a little bit more than some of the other ones because they're some of them are more similar than others. So let's just
jump in.
Let's do antisocial first. It's
I
my
mean,
favorite one.
Okay, let's tell us about it.
So let me just get on my soapbox for 10 seconds. That's what I love to do. So everyone thinks, and I know you know this too because I'm sure you've heard this. So everyone thinks antisocial means what we talked about last week is schizoid. Where
Okay.
I'm antisocial.
Okay.
So I don't want to talk to people. So whenever when I talk about antisocial, people are like, oh, so it's people who don't like to talk to people. And I say, no, honey, it's not that. Antisocial people are the people who have a general and reckless disregard for the safety of other people. So they don't care about rules and regulations and social norms. So they'll lie, they'll cheat, they'll steal. They won't feel bad about it.
No regrets.
No, #no regrets. And they really, some of them really do. Oh,
no, they truly, no remorse.
No, absolutely not.
No.
They, they will have a hard time keeping jobs. Not because they can't keep, like, physically can't keep a job. They just will steal or do things at the job where they will get fired. So it's very much antisocial in the what it means is anti-society, not
right.
I don't
societal
want to talk to
norms.
Right. Yeah. I don't like to follow your rules and regulations.
Yep.
It doesn't always mean that you'll commit crimes. I don't want to make it sound like
No.
And then you can do the offshoot, and we could do a future episode on psychopathy.
Please.
Oh.
Because I think this is
a couple,
this is where your psychopath/sociopath would probably fall under.
They fall under the extremer version of this, but antisocial is a really interesting diagnosis to work with, and people who have it are very interesting. But yeah, I don't like society's rules, so I will do whatever I want, and I will use whatever means to achieve that.
Manipulation.
Yes,
A lot of serial killers probably fall under this as well.
They tend to be fairly, if they're good at it, they're fairly charismatic. Some of them are not very charismatic, but a lot of them are. So that's what antisocial is. So fictional examples.
Okay.
I don't know if you would agree with these two that I've got.
Oh, I have some of my own.
Okay, good. Hannibal Lecter is one.
Absolutely. Well, yeah, that's psychopaths.
Yeah,
he would definitely be a psychopath.
Hannibal. Yep. Silence of the Lambs, and then the Joker from The Dark Knight.
I never seen The Dark Knight, but I mean, I know. No. Nope. You don't get to judge me. No. You haven't seen Lord of the Rings. You haven't seen.
I was like, I haven't seen any of this.
Yeah. So no, we don't do that. But I know the premise, Joker. So I think he'd be on the sociopath side, right?
Yeah,
We're just like complete anarchy.
Yes, 100%. Yeah. Who do you got for antisocial? Anyway?
Well, so I brought, again, nerd. So Darth Vader.
Okay.
From Star Wars, obviously, like Emperor Palpatine. Like I think you could argue more for Emperor Palpatine.
Yeah.
Because I think Darth Vader had like that part of him that was.
Yeah.
Like still good, and he ended up, spoiler alert, he ended up saving everybody.
Yes.
And then Voldemort.
Yeah.
Right. Like
classic.
but I think even worse, Umbridge. Right. Like. She was probably.
Not so much on like the I'm gonna commit like crimes antisocial, more so of like the.
She made children right.
I mean,
like things into their skin.
She wasn't a career criminal, is what I mean.
No,
like,
no.
Like,
she was like used power for her.
Power for
her power.
your gain. Yes.
And then Stewie Griffin from Family Guy.
Stewie's one of my favorites.
I do want to note too. I know again we said we're not diagnosing real people, but I just have to say for this cluster, just think of everyone in Tiger King.
Interesting.
Just they all probably fall under, again, not diagnosing them, but you've seen Tiger King.
Flavors.
You've seen it.
Oh, I have seen the Tiger King.
Like these.
That was the only thing that got me through
that
the first month of the pandemic.
Sustained me. Yeah, sustained. Oh, loved that. But
we watched it twice.
That's those people. Just they fall in here again. Not diagnosing them. No. But just a note. Just a side
Joe
note
Exotic,
that I had.
Probably the most.
You watch that show and you're like, this can't get worse. And it does.
It did.
And it does.
Every episode.
Every moment.
I remember watching it with Justin, and after the first 2 episodes, I would be like shouting at him, what can happen next, and then the next episode would just like be so much more extra than the first episode, and
you're just like, do these people listen to themselves? And they don't.
They don't, and that's the problem.
That's the problem.
That's the problem.
That's the problem. So that was just my side note I forgot to add before we jumped in. But I think those are my antisocial folk.
Yes, I would agree. Yes, I'm here for that. So the next one we'll do borderline, because I think this one might be this might be the
I think probably people probably know the most. Or well,
I think this term is, I think borderline and borderline personality disorder is probably the most widely thrown out term of all mental health diagnoses besides bipolar disorder. So if, again, please don't diagnose yourself with this. I have worked with so many clients who are borderline or have borderline personality disorder, and they're really not terrible to work with. It's more so where they are at in their, I guess, acceptance of what is going on. Yeah. So, okay. Borderline personality. I'm already laughing because I'm just thinking of all my clients that have had it. So they have, probably the number one hallmark of borderline personality disorder is the unstable self-image. Yes. You are not able to, like, what I used to do in the prison was I would ask offenders, who are you? And if they had borderline personality disorder, they could not answer that question in any way, shape, or form, because they have no self-image.
Interesting.
So, like, if I were to ask you that question, like, you'd probably say, oh, like, I'm Kyle, you'd list a bunch of things that you are.
Charming, witty, handsome,
humble, beautiful.
Beautiful. Yeah.
People who have cannot do that because they're so unstable. The rapidly changing emotions, which is where the bipolar comes in.
This is because I think people I'm bipolar because I'm happy one second and mad the next, and it's like, oh, that's not it.
That's a personality problem.
Yeah, that's poor emotional expression.
Yes, and that's also probably the other hallmark of borderline personality disorder is that you have a really tough time regulating your emotions. Like if somebody tells you something negative, you lose your marbles in 10 seconds and start screaming at everyone.
Right, and then you're fine.
Right, and then once you scream at everybody, you're fine. So that's one. Another one that is common, but it's not for everyone. I actually had a lot of clients who didn't have this part, was the self-harm. Yeah. It's like, just self-harm. It spoiler alert, trigger warning, I guess.
Yeah, trigger warning.
So that can be part of it. It doesn't always mean it is.
But typically it's attention seeking, right? It's not.
Yes, it's not
necessarily for like emotional regulation.
Yes, it's not a trigger warning. It's not like a genuine wanting to unalive yourself. It's much more, I'm going to hurt myself so you pay attention to me, which kind of bleeds into
so you
the
don't
abandon
seeking. Me.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes, another major hallmark is the fear of abandonment and the very much of like the push-pull of I'll push you away before you push me away, but then I'll pull you back in once you start. So that's pretty. I mean, I don't know if you want to add anything more.
Yeah, I mean,
those are the hallmarks.
When I have patients that have this diagnosis or have these traits, I always say that if you think of your core self-worth, right, or your core self, like you think it's trash, like to you it's a piece of trash, but you cover it up with what I call synthetic self-worth. Yeah. So you are either like people pleasing or
you have bad boundaries.
Yes. You're trying to take care of everybody because you're going, look, see how great I am. But really it's hurting you. It's now people are going to take advantage of you. You've now set up that expectation that, oh, so-and-so is going to be here for me all the time. Yes. So then when that eventually runs out, because people just expect it, right? They're not going, oh, thank you so much anymore, right? They're just saying, oh, whatever, you did it for me. Then you're like, oh, see, I'm trash. Right. So it's just like this constant
it's very... People who have borderline personality disorder tend to think very much black or white. There's no gray. There's no middle ground.
I'm either amazing or I'm trash.
Right, and that's sort of like that push-pull of I'm going to push you away before you can leave me, but don't leave me. Right. And I'm going to pull you back in. That's I mean, that's how it typically...
Yeah, and I think that's where people get that dysregulation because they're like trying to control the other person in a way, but then also themselves to see themselves as better or good enough.
Yes. It's very... It can be exhausting. It can be really, especially for the person who has it. It's very exhausting. Fictional examples. I don't know if you've ever watched this show. It's a very good show.
Okay.
Crazy Ex-Girlfriend.
Nope, never heard of
The
it.
main character ends up actually getting spoiler alert, ends up getting diagnosed with it. They in the first season or two, she thinks she has depression and anxiety. You know, everybody no one understands her, and then finally she sees I think she trigger warning, spoiler alert. She takes a bunch of pills and has to go to a doctor, and the doctor's like, you have borderline personality disorder, and it is actually probably the most accurate portrayal of it I've seen on like a show or TV. So, and she seeks treatment, and she does the treatment, which we'll talk about later for it.
Some of this, especially with borderline, I say there's a developmental
Yes,
appropriateness.
100%.
Like as a teenager, and I think even in his early 20s, like it's kind of developmentally appropriate for you to be a bit borderline. Well, you know what I mean?
Yes. So I had my when I worked in the prison, I had a psychologist who ran our unit and was my supervisor, and she would describe it in the best way that it happens when you're a kid and you don't even really know it. So it's like when you are a kid and you run outside and you scrape your knee and you go to your mom, and most moms will say, "Oh my gosh, are you okay?" Kiss your knee, put a Band-Aid on it, and you'll go on your way. But then people who end up developing borderline personality disorder later in life, like their mom wouldn't pay attention. So then they would have to go outside, rub some dirt in it, come back in, the mom would pay attention. So then they start learning sort of the maladaptive pieces to be like, oh, I need to rub dirt in it. Oh, I need to make sure the cut is bigger. I need to make sure I'm crying harder. That's how it sort of develops from childhood. It was actually, that's how she would explain it to the officers who didn't understand what it meant, because you would just, you continue escalating your behaviors until somebody finally paid attention to you.
Right.
So that's what I think a lot of people don't understand about borderline personality disorder, is that if you continue, like, there's some treatment for it, which we'll talk about later.
We'll talk about it.
But I think a lot of people don't understand sort of the thought process. It's like, I have to up the ante for you to care about it.
It's almost an addiction, right? Because it's
it is.
You get to this level, you know, and it's like, oh, that doesn't work anymore, so I move it up, and
you have to keep knocking it up. So
because that attention, it's synthetic, right? That
yes,
synthetic self-worth.
That's a great way too.
I know.
Another fictional example that I don't know that I agree with, this one, is the Hulk.
I don't get. You sent this to me, and I said, I don't know how.
It didn't really give a great rationale. It was just that Hulk can't control his emotions, and I'm like, this man has been gamma rayed. Like, what do we expect him to do that?
I don't know. Shit going on.
I didn't necessarily see that one as much.
No.
Another one that I saw that I didn't agree with, that I didn't include, was, if you ever watched Riverdale, which I did until it got weird. Betty Cooper from Riverdale. So like one of the main characters. I did not agree with that either.
But again, they were all teenagers though.
Right, they were all teenagers. Yes. Yeah, I didn't agree with it.
So again, coming from the nerd kingdom, Darth Vader, Anakin Skywalker, who first I put him down, and then I was like, no, I don't think so. And then when I started researching and other people were saying it, I read into it, and he did. I mean, he spoiler alert, lost his mom really young.
Yeah.
And it was all about, like, he couldn't save her, and so he just had this abandonment issue.
Yes. Yes.
That, I mean, he never, there was no like self-harm or anything, but he would get angry very quickly, and he just couldn't
like lash out.
Couldn't regulate himself. So I thought that was appropriate.
I don't disagree with that one. I do agree with that too.
Now this one, I can't believe you didn't say this one. And it's probably never seen this movie, but Girl Interrupted. Our girl Winona Ryder.
I've never seen it.
Hi Winona.
Never seen it. So.
Oh my gosh, Jackie. I think if you watched, you would see that this is a perfect portrayal.
I've heard
of like mental, because it's her and Angelina Jolie.
Yes.
Who, I mean, I wasn't as impressed with her, but I'm also Winona forever.
Yeah.
It was really good about, I think, cluster B personalities, I think, overall, because I think it was Angelina Jolie's character kind of took Winona's character and was manipulating her, but then they got close, and then there was a lot. It was a little bit of everything. So good. But yeah, that's a good one about borderline.
You see just traits of it in people. It's very we could talk about 13 Reasons Why, but they're teenagers, so I don't want to get into that.
Can we not talk about that?
But I would wager that the main character in 13 Reasons Why, the original one, what was her name? Whatever her name was. We watched it when it came out, and I watched the first season, and I was like, no,
that was enough.
We can't do this.
That was enough.
She was probably developing it, because like you said, a lot of this is like a trauma based.
Yeah.
A lot of this develops from childhood and a trauma response, so you have to keep that kind of stuff in mind, because there's some symptomology that appears later in life that makes
Right.
more sense to be tied
Right.
to trauma based. So that's borderline, I think.
That's borderline,
I-
I think. Yeah. And I think, again, going back to just a reminder, the traits
Yes.
versus a diagnosis, like people can have
You
this
can,
poor
yes.
self-worth and have
Mhm,
borderline
for sure.
traits where they do certain things to avoid that abandonment, but that may not necessarily be
Right.
a diagnosis.
Right. Next one is another one that's interesting. Narcissistic.
Yeah, I think this would probably be one that's thrown around a lot, kind of like borderline, right? Like
yes.
I think I said in the first one, people say, "Oh, they're a hidden narcissist," or they're.
What does that even mean?
I mean, one,
It just like emerges
all
randomly,
personality
like,
disorders are kind of
just
hidden,
shoots out of you one day.
right? I mean,
Like you're
right.
like all of a sudden your chest opens and this like hidden narcissistic person just comes out. I don't get it.
I don't either.
It's
No.
So this one is an interesting one. I've worked with one person with it, and and that was their only diagnosis, not with the other cluster Bs or any of the other personality disorders. So people who have narcissistic personality disorder tend to think of themselves as special, and everybody else is not as special,
Yeah,
or like
they're
less
on a
than. They're
pedestal.
like
Yeah.
they're much higher than the rest of us.
Right.
The rest
They're
of us
amazing.
are plebes, and they are the king and or queen. Their egos really dictate what they do and what they say to other people, which can be very dangerous if you want to play that
Well,
game.
because their ego is fragile too, right? Again, this is self-esteem,
extremely
right?
Fragile. It's so fragile.
It's kind of the same as the borderline, where it's like they're protecting that
Yes.
piss poor self
Yes.
image, just in
And-
a different way.
Right. They'll exaggerate their talents and their abilities.
Mm-hmm.
They want constant praise. So if you're not giving them praise, it's not going to work for you.
Yeah.
I think something that I would want to mention, although it's like not a diagnostic term, the gaslighting thing. I don't know what your opinion about is the gaslighting,
Yeah.
but I would say people who have narcissistic personality disorder tend to fall into the trope of like gaslighting.
Yeah, I think so.
Do you-
Because it's
Explain. Do you want to explain what
yeah.
gaslighting is?
So
for
well, again,
the
I think
listeners. I said viewers, like they can see us,
the
they can
kids,
see
the
us.
viewers of the pod.
Yeah.
Well, I think this is another word that can get thrown out there a bit more.
Mhm.
But this is essentially when somebody invalidates your experience
Yes.
by not just invalidating it, but by criticizing you, I think.
Yes,
So
yes.
if if we, let's say, again, you and I are in a relationship and you come to me and you say, I felt just really ignored today when I came to you and I was
Yes.
trying to talk to you about my day. It was a hard day. And I said, Jackie, you're just being crazy. You just
Yes.
always do this. You act crazy on Thursdays and I can't deal with it anymore. That I think would
Yes.
be gaslighting.
Yeah. Yeah. Gaslighting is very much that. It's
But
very
it's
much,
not it's not when someone just disagrees with you.
right. No, it's
So-
pretty much like you said. Like
Right.
they'll do anything to tell you that whatever
Mhm.
you feel is not the
Yeah.
truth.
I think it's a part of that abuse cycle, which we
Yes.
could talk about that at some point too.
Yes, I would love to.
Mhm,
Yes, I would
mhm.
love to hear your
Yeah.
thoughts about all that. Yeah. So the gaslighting, they can be really hard to treat people with NPD because they just don't see them. They see themselves as special. They don't see anything that's wrong with them.
It's not they didn't do anything, it's everybody else.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. It's very much like I am the greatest, and so. There's probably a lot of fictional. I'm sure we're going to touch
A lot
on
of
the
real
ones,
people
yeah,
too
a
we
lot
could
of real
talk about.
people.
But we won't because we're ethical on
Right.
this
We
podcast.
can't do that. There's a lot. There's a lot of people. Ones that I came up with was Tony Stark from the Marvel, the MCU.
Yeah. And I think he's a
Traits, I would say. I wouldn't say
yes,
he's full blown.
because he
but
at the spoiler alert at the end saved the world. So,
I know.
but again, but
he was. But it was
motivation, personal motivation.
Right. I
don't
know.
Okay.
I think about that sometimes.
Okay.
Yeah, I think Tony Stark is one, especially in the first couple of Iron Man movies. If you're into the MCU, very much I'm the greatest. I know everything. And some of the
Yeah.
the Avengers movies too. He's very much
yes,
like
in the
I know
beginning.
everything.
Yeah.
Another.
And I think his
yeah.
father was that way too. So
Yes, they
Mhm.
allude to that a lot. I don't read the comics or any of that, but definitely in some of the later movies they allude to that his father was the same. And
Mm-hmm.
another one that I think is a good that I also saw under I think Antisocial too, but I think he fits better under NPD is Dr. House from House. If you ever watched that show,
Yeah, I
think,
have. Yeah.
I think he fits. I think he fits more in NPD than he does in like Antisocial. I didn't understand the connection to Antisocial as much as the narcissistic
Maybe
one.
just because he like he'll do like some kind of hard test and it hurts the person. He's like, I don't care. I'm trying to figure out what's wrong with them.
Yeah.
You know, so
It's-
maybe that. But I think he's more of a. But then he is also really smart though.
Yeah.
So that's a tough one.
It's a tough one. I think when I've watched the show in the past when it was on, it was very much like I know everything and you guys don't know anything, and I'm the smartest person in this room, and I think that's where it like comes off for him.
Because then he didn't. Because sometimes he was wrong.
and he was kind of a jerk to people who got in his way.
To the
I
peasants.
guess.
Mhm.
Yes, to the plebes.
To the peasants.
To the plebes.
To the plebes. Well, now that I know you don't watch Game of Thrones, this will mean nothing to you.
It
But Cersei Lannister
Okay.
absolutely is a narcissist. I mean,
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure.
I think again.
I do know the plot of Game of Thrones. Like I do understand.
Well,
that
there are
much.
several. So
Yes, I know there's several.
Okay.
Yes, she very much is. I would agree with that based on what I know.
Yeah.
Not saying.
But it was all about her and about
Mhm.
power and status, and probably was a little borderline there as well. The other one, if you haven't watched this show, I'm gonna quit the
Oh, no.
podcast. But Frank Gallagher from Shameless.
Oh, I love Shameless.
Oh, thank God.
Very accurate to
Yeah,
that area.
But
of
I think he
Chicago.
was definitely a narcissist. I think because it was always
among
just
other things.
among
yes,
other things.
Among maybe a very
Oh,
serious
that would be
substance use disorder.
Yeah, and to say the least, to
Right,
say the least.
To say the minimal. Great show if no one's ever
Oh,
watched that. Don't
I-
watch it with children, but it's a
No,
very
no,
great
no.
show.
But I think portraying mental illness, though,
Oh, for sure.
I one of the best. I
Mhm,
think.
for sure. On all with the kids too,
Mhm.
even.
Oh, the mom.
Oh.
The mom is my
Monica.
perfect client, minus the drug use. I couldn't do that, but
Yeah.
just love
The
that.
kids too,
They-
especially in the later seasons. I
Yeah,
haven't watched the very last season yet. I've watched
We-
part of it, but
we got to do a whole pod on diagnosing all of them. That would be a good one.
that would be a
Fucking
good one.
Debbie, fucking
Debbie, we
Debbie
can't talk about
Gallagher.
Debbie.
We need a whole pod to talk about
She-
Debbie.
Anyways, we won't.
Anyways,
get into
we
it.
can't get into
We
that
can't
now.
get into that right now.
But anyways, Frank Gallagher, because it was,
yes, 100%.
even though he had his kids, it was always about him. Like whatever his goal was, whatever. Like
yes, he did not
he
care.
did not
would
care.
do whatever he needed to do.
although
and
he could be kind of antisocial though. Too,
I think
as
he's.
talk
I really
about it.
honestly think he's a mix of antisocial and
Yeah,
narcissistic
yeah.
because he would use whatever he needed to do to achieve whatever means he wanted to. But he was very much, I'm the most important person in this house,
Mhm.
and you guys all suck, which had some really interesting consequences for his kids over the years. And I don't mean
Mhm.
that like facetiously. I mean that more so of like they all turned out very differently than what you thought they would for the most part. So yes, Frank Gallagher for sure. Yes, I
Yeah.
love Shameless. It's a
Yep.
very good show.
Very good.
And the last one.
The last one,
Very-
histrionic,
Yes, similar to Borderline, but different.
but different.
Histrionic is it's very much drama. We have to bring the drama, like we
Mhm.
have to be very emotional. It's similar to Borderline in that way, but the emotions themselves are so shallow and
Mhm.
so surface that it's almost like they don't have like genuine emotions, if that makes any sort of sense to anybody out there.
Yeah, I mean it's like you stub your toe and it's like, oh
screaming,
my God,
crying,
yeah, and
yeah.
you're like, I have to call off work for 2
Yes.
weeks, like
Exactly.
it's that kind of thing. I was trying to look up. There's the word histrionic. It comes from something. Is it hysteria?
I think so.
Is that what it is?
I'm sure it's like a Greek or Latin word for like hysterical.
because you
or
get
something.
hysteric.
Yes, because it's very they tend to be very very overly concerned about appearance, very
Mhm. Yeah.
wear inappropriate,
Attention-seeking.
sexy-ish clothes in
Yeah.
an effort to get attention. Again, similar to Borderline, but typically people with Borderline don't dress.
I feel like
in a
borderline are trying to like deflect from you,
Yes,
like
yes.
getting
Mhm.
like it's trying to direct the attention away versus histrionic is like look at the synthetic self-worth that I've created.
Right, right.
And I think this is the sexy clothing piece is where I have never seen that in a histrionic, like
The one person I
I think
worked
that's
with
where
who had the
I-
traits of it, we were in a prison, so we couldn't do that. But
Yeah.
it was very much like everything was very drama. Everything, food was 5 minutes late. Oh, my God.
Yeah,
I'm gonna starve.
Yeah,
It was, and
yeah.
I would just
Yeah.
sit there and think, what are you doing?
right. I think it's more of the attention seeking. It's like you dye your hair something like a crazy color
Yes,
or like
yes.
you're wearing some like crazy outfit. But then with that again, it's like when someone says, "Why did you dye your hair that?" Well, how dare you? Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, how dare you question me?
yeah.
Like that's the, I think more of the stereotypical.
Right.
Yeah, I've never really seen the sexy
No, I've not seen
sexiness.
it on like in a non like confined setting. And the other thing that typically happens with people who have histrionic, which I have seen before, is very much they think relationships are more meaningful or deeper than
Yes.
they really
Right,
are.
like they just met. You're like, we're best friends.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's very, I don't know what the right word is. I hate to keep saying interesting, but it's just very, it's very interesting to watch that
yeah.
unfold because,
Yeah.
I mean, it makes the other person uncomfortable. And then they
well,
continue
you don't know
to,
where you stand.
right, and they continue
any
to think
moment.
that they are so close with this person and
Right.
they really aren't. It's,
Well, and then the opposite too. Like if they're like, "Oh, I'm gonna call you at 7," and then at 7:03, I'm never talking to you again. I can't believe you didn't call me at 7. Like legit.
Yeah,
I mean, that's.
yeah.
I mean, maybe a little extreme, but it's
I mean, yeah.
stuff like that where they will cut you out just like
for
that.
sure, for sure.
Yeah.
Fictional example that I found that I don't know. We're gonna have to discuss because Regina
don't-
George, Mean Girls.
I don't know.
I don't know if I agree with
personally
this.
identify with Regina George, so I'm a little nervous to talk about this.
I could see some of the shallowness of her, but I feel like over
Yeah.
time she grew a little bit more to be more
She
of a
did.
deeper.
She was also a teenager.
Yes, she was a teenager, so I
Mhm.
don't want to say anything about that. I couldn't really find any other ones though, like that. I was searching on the interwebs.
I
and
have
didn't really
I have some for you.
You do? Okay, tell me.
Again, hopefully you've seen some of these. So the first one is Carlotta from Phantom of the Opera, the diva.
I have not seen it, but I really do want to. Should I watch the Emmy Rossum version
Oh,
of it?
absolutely. All right, Gerard Butler as the Phantom. Are
Oh,
you
he's the
kidding me?
Phantom?
Yes.
Okay, okay.
And the Carlotta is Minnie Driver.
Oh, I thought that was the Emmy Rossum version.
N-
She was in it.
Yeah, she was the main girl.
I don't know all the characters.
Oh my god. But she was like a diva, right? She was like the
Yes.
opera star and
Okay,
like
yeah.
there was something that happened. I can't remember what it was now, but like something fell in the background and she was like, "Oh, I can't go on." And they ended up replacing her, which was hilarious. And then she was like devastated.
I love that.
And then the other one is Scarlett O'Hara from Gone with the Wind.
Yes, I did see
Yeah.
some whispers of that on the interwebs.
Yeah.
I have not seen Gone with the Wind, but I've seen many of the famous scenes where it's
Yeah.
like the
But-
oh,
Yeah, it's like,
oh.
"Oh, the vapors." Yeah, she would
Yes.
get the vapors.
Yes.
So, and then you can't diagnose real people, but reality TV, like this is where it is. This is where it comes from.
Yes, I think a lot of people who do. This is my personal opinion, not the opinion of others. I
My
think a lot of-
professional opinion.
Yes, my unprofessional opinion is I think a lot of people who do reality TV, and not that like, I think a lot of I actually don't want to say a lot of people. I think them, especially if you're going on a reality show like a love reality show or a show where there's a end goal to find somebody else. I think that some people who go on those shows have traits of histrionic PD because
What's that attention? It's like, what can I
Like,
do next?
I don't want to offend anybody in this fandom. I don't know if you're a part of this fandom. I do not watch the show, but The Bachelor is one that I
Oh.
feel like is very
Well-
like can come off very histrionic.
It is. And
It is very
yeah.
much like we're whisking you out of your environment. We're taking
Mhm.
you to a undisclosed area or an island because I know they do
Right.
like The Bachelor in Paradise. We're gonna shove you in a fishbowl with other people, and then you're gonna develop a relationship. That's where I feel like
Right.
we think we're closer than we are. And then they go home, and none of them can only like a very small fraction of them have not divorced
Right.
and or broken up at some point. Like 10 couples this week from
Well,
Bachelor broke
and
up. So.
again, in their defense, you have to think like,
Yeah,
what
100%.
part of it is just a show, right? What
Right,
part of them are
right.
like, give me my 15 minutes, let me do something ridiculous.
But I think some people genuinely live their lives this way,
Yeah.
which I think is terrible in some ways because you just want to be the center of attention. I can't stand it. I
No.
cannot be the center of attention. That's just not my.
I mean, I have my
bag.
moments, but
I don't even think I have my own moments. I almost made Justin and I elope because I did not want to be the. Center of
but see,
attention.
no, but I think that makes sense. I wouldn't want that either.
It's terrible.
But like, if it's something I know that I know a lot about, like it was
Yeah.
like Star Wars. Oh hell yeah, absolutely. I will tell you everything.
Get up on that podium.
Get
start
up on that
talking.
podium. Absolutely.
I love that. No, I couldn't really, and I kept trying to think of more and more people, but a lot of it was like it was like reality TV. It was
Yeah.
much more. I don't want to, like I said, but we are a professional and ethical podcast, so
right.
we won't do
We
that.
would
But
never do that.
a lot of the reality TV
Yeah. Just
tropes
like attention
are
seeking.
histrionic.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
those
Those were cluster beasts.
I know.
Why don't we take a little break? Let
Yes.
people kind of digest
Yes.
all of that and
take a breath.
not diagnose themselves.
Take a breath. Just take a minute and we will be right back.
We'll be right back. Welcome back.
Welcome.
So hopefully you all have not diagnosed yourself.
And maybe taken a moment to breathe.
Yeah. And not diagnose us.
Yes, right.
Because we'll get to that.
Oh, we'll get to that. Yeah. So treatment for cluster Bs. Kyle, what do you got?
It's still, I think, again, we're gonna go back to what we said the first episode in that, there's no really medication.
No.
Again, unless you're treating some
certain
co-occurring
symptoms,
depression, anxiety, things like that. There's really no medication that is going to make these just go away.
I've seen some medications used for borderline personality disorder, but it's more so the ones that I've seen used were to target the self-harming impulsive part of it, not
more like the regulation.
Not anything else as part of that. And there's really, again, most people with PDs are coming to treatment because of relationship issues, especially in the cluster Bs.
Yeah.
Something that I know and I live and breathe and die by is DBT, dialectical behavioral therapy, for those who don't know what that is, which is popular and evidence-based practice for borderline personality disorder.
Gold standard, I think.
It is the gold standard. Linehan's DBT especially, and that's what they use in the prison system mostly.
Yeah.
So I'm very DBT.
Oh, tell us about it.
Oh, I love DBT.
I know the basics. A lot of acronyms.
So it's 4 different tenets. So it's distress tolerance, emotional regulation, mindfulness, and interpersonal effectiveness. So those are the 4. So they all have acronyms within them. I won't go into it because this could be a whole separate podcast.
We don't have time.
So you teach whatever the person needs at that moment. Also, part of DBT is very much and. So you know how people are like, oh, I'm happy for you, but I'm also pissed. Instead of you replace the but with and.
Which is a good habit. Yeah, that's a good habit to just be into. That
so that's how
emotional granularity.
Yeah, I try to live my life in that sense. So when people, like the best example I can give is when you have a coworker that you really like and they say, oh, I'm leaving.
I like that you pointed at me. Thank you.
I know. Because I had to be very DBT when you left our department. I say, oh, I'm happy for you, and I'm really sad to see you go, instead of saying, but I'm sad that, it's very much the balance of life. DBT very much teaches you, and this is a very watered down version of what I'm giving. So anybody who actually practices DBT is
don't come for us. Yeah.
It's very much to learn to live in the gray space, because it's very much, like how we said, borderline is very black and white. So you live very much in the gray space. So DBT is great. It's probably the number one thing that I use the most in treatment, and still use even with my own personal stuff, because it's just so easy to apply. But yes, lots of acronyms like the Dear Man acronym.
Yeah.
There's broken record, all these things that are part of DBT. So that's there's really no other specific form of treatment to do stuff with antisocial. The only thing I can speak to is I use a lot of DBT with them as well.
Yeah.
A lot of it is very much so. You have to be really careful with people who have antisocial personality disorder, and then veering off into the sociopath and the psychopathy of it, because you don't want to teach them how to how to read empathy or emotions.
Right. But there is
a couple times, which was not good. But
there is empathy training though. I've seen empathy training.
Yes, and so there's some of that. A lot of it is insight based. Very much what do you think that makes somebody else feel when you steal all of their money and all their cars? And most of the time they're well, I don't care. This is what I needed to do. And you sit there and you think, okay. It's there's not much that you can really. There's not. It's a lot of it is talk. A lot of it is, like you said, insight training. It's very much that.
Right.
No medications for antisocial or any of them really. Yeah. Like we said, just
barbiturates to sedate them, I guess, but
maybe some opiates if we're lucky.
Most of them probably turn to that. I think that's something we didn't really talk about. Yeah, people with personality disorders tend to turn to substance use to manage.
Yes, it's very pervasive within that. So,
but I think with again, this is the self-esteem cluster. So of course
Right.
you're doing some self-esteem work. Definitely with borderline. I mean, DBT does that, but there's some, trauma focused, obviously,
Yeah,
care.
you have to end up doing a lot of trauma focus work with people
Mhm.
with borderline personality disorder. It's very rare that you meet somebody
Yeah.
with BPD that doesn't have some
No,
type of
right,
significant trauma
No,
or
right.
traumatic event.
And typically sexual as well.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So, but then, yeah, for the others, I think it's,
There's not really a lot.
it's because again, your narcissists and your antisocial are not coming in and saying like, I need treatment for this. They're usually coming in because their spouse or someone said, well, I need to be here, and so it's a lot of motivational interviewing.
Yeah.
That might be one. We can talk about some motivational interviewing.
Yes.
To just try to
You can-
meet them in the middle and be
You
like,
can
what
do
do
a
we
little
want to
bit of
work on?
ACT too.
Oh,
if you
absolutely.
Really, if they're okay enough to do it. I'm thinking more so for like antisocial, like narcissistic.
Yeah.
Like what you value.
What are your
and
values?
and all that.
Yeah.
Although if they value
Taking advantage of
stealing
people.
and
Yeah.
lying, it becomes a little bit dicey. But
Right.
Kyle, what's your favorite one to work with in treatment if you have a favorite?
I have to say borderline. I have to. It's
I'm not surprised.
again, I think you said this, I don't know if you said it earlier in the last podcast, but or episode, that there's levels, right? Like there's levels of people's kind of insight and where they're at, and so I really like working with people, even though it's really rough, like in the beginning, maybe when they don't have that insight and they don't really know what's going on.
Yes.
Even though it's stressful, I do like working to that point to where then we get to, okay, I have, borderline or these traits or, whatever we want to call them.
Right.
Here's how I'm working through. I love that. I just love that.
It's
because especially when they say like, oh, I realized that was, my borderline.
when you see the change, like it's really good because when you see the behavior change, that it becomes a lot more rewarding to work with people who have borderline personality disorder. Until that point, it's rough.
Right.
For me, I love
Mm-hmm.
antisocial personality disorder.
I knew that's what you were gonna say.
I love it.
Mm-hmm.
I
can just see you sitting across from someone, and they're like, "Yeah, I robbed that person." You'd be like, "Oh, say more. Tell me more about that."
That's pretty accurate to what it was.
Mm.
You really think that was a good idea?
Okay.
Tell me why.
Tell me about that.
I love it. I do like working with people with borderline. I feel like I do a really good job because I can do a lot of that boundary training too.
Oh, that's a good boundaries. That's a good one.
So I do like to work with people with borderline personality disorder, but I just love a good antisocial dude who is like, I'm gonna kill you because you pissed me off.
And you're
I'm like, okay, great. So tell me what else you need me to do for you. And then most of the time it's like, I'm gonna kill you next time I see you. It's like, okay, thanks for the warning.
Thank you. Yeah. That was really nice of you to warn me. That was very empathetic of you to consider my feelings.
Yes. I had a hand, not that many. I had a couple psychopaths on my caseload when I worked at the prison, and
I'm sure you had more than a couple.
I definitely one for sure, like diagnosable, like the Harris checklist, the definitely 100% check all 20 of them. So yes, I love a good antisocial. It's my favorite. My favorite of all time.
Okay.
I will never not feel that way.
I can see that. Yeah. That's not. I don't
You're
think,
like, Jackie's getting so animated. You guys can't see.
I think even.
So thrilled.
I think even the kids out there are like, oh, we knew Jackie was going to say that.
It's one of the coolest things to work with, especially when they start to develop, like you said, like with the borderline, like when they develop that insight and they start doing better, like it's much more rewarding at that point. If it's somebody who's like too far gone, sometimes it's really a rough struggle, but
and it's just maintaining that you don't actually maybe kill someone or kill someone again.
So if you had to diagnose yourself, on that note,
truth tea, time for it.
If you had to diagnose yourself with one, or say you have traits,
a
lot of traits of one,
think traits.
What would you?
Because we clearly don't have personality disorders.
Oh, honey. Which one would you say for yourself?
Well, I know. Back in the day, I had a little borderline traits in my day.
Oh, for sure. Oh, I think everyone.
But again, developmental.
Up.
I mean, I definitely had that. I never said like, I'm gonna kill myself if you leave me or anything. But I definitely had those like, well, if you leave me, I'm gonna like never talk to you. Or, like stuff like that. I'm gonna key your car. But not anymore. Now I'm like, go away. Fine, go, get away. I don't care. But I think I can be pretty self-centered. I think I can get pretty narcissistic pretty quick. I don't know if it's. I think it's because I was an only child. So
Yeah.
I don't understand the concept of like when people are telling stories, I relate to them by then telling a similar story,
Same. I'm the same way.
and I realize that that's people don't do that because
maybe that's why you and I get along. So
Maybe.
because we do that with each other. Because I do that too. I just think that's a way to be like, oh,
Right.
I'm connecting
right.
your story to my story, which actually is helpful.
But it's I realized people don't do that, and I
Yeah,
think part of it is because I didn't have siblings. I didn't have to fight over my parents' affection.
Yes, you did.
I just got it
Yes.
sometimes. When I did well in school.
When I did well in school, they paid attention to me. I got to come out of my room.
I got to come out of the closet under the stairs and
right, very Harry Potter.
say hello to the world.
Oh my gosh, no.
So yeah, I think I can have those moments where I'm like, yeah, I'm hot shit.
Yeah.
I know I
am.
am.
For sure, yeah.
But then I can quickly crash down from something like
right, under the covers,
under the
rocking yourself.
I'm trash. What are you, Jackie? What are you?
I am 100%. It's a known fact. I tell people this all the time. I am 100% antisocial, and not in the way that I think. If you give me I'm a very good rule follower. Maybe I'll say this. I'm a very good rule follower. So if you were like, you have to do this, fine, I will do that. But I also will find a way that I can do it that's not like it goes around your rule.
That does make sense.
And so I'm very much. I hate to say it like this, but when I worked at my former department, I was very antisocial with how I did some things. With just because I'm like, I know I have to get to the end point, but how I get there doesn't matter. So if that means I'm protecting someone or whatever, it's very like I don't want to say it's not like altruistic necessarily. I know I can be very antisocial with stuff. You give me a rule, sure. It's like malicious compliance almost. Like I will.
You're like chaotic good.
Yes, very chaotic. I can see sometimes when I look at borderlines, I'm like, okay, this kind of like I can see. I definitely, like you said, like teenage years growing up for sure. I think everyone has some of it.
Yeah. Everyone's a little borderline.
But
at
yeah,
some point.
I think for me, I think I like to work with antisocial people so much is because I could honestly see myself in their shoes, and I sometimes think, how did I not end up in that position?
Resiliency, baby.
Right. Because I just think I don't know. It's just I just understand their perspective on things. Like it's interesting to talk to people who like working in a prison was really cool because when you sometimes would ask people like, okay, like tell me like, and it wasn't very often that I did this, but when you're like, hey, tell me about your crime. Sometimes the stories you would get, you would be like, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, I see why you did that.
Yeah, I can totally see that. It's very much that. So that's why I feel like I'm an antisocial at heart, deep down.
Well, aren't we
what a pair we
What
make.
a pair we make. Good Lord.
That's why everybody listens to this podcast.
Are we the drama?
Yes.
Yes.
I'm not ashamed of it. We are the drama.
There
I am the
you go.
moment. We are the moment.
We are
We are the drama.
we are the moment. We are the drama.
We're everything.
She is the moment.
I'm not disputing it.
Wow. Okay. Cluster B's, everyone.
Cluster B's.
What's a good what's a send off? What do we send the kids off with today? I feel like I always come up with it.
You
come up with something.
I'm not good at this.
Oh, okay.
I'm not fast enough.
How many narcissists have you dated?
Like that we would like that they would admit they are, or we're saying that they would admit it, because I think I would probably say one or two.
That they would admit it?
I think neither of them would admit it. But I mean, if you've dated someone,
just like when did your therapist sense kind of go off and go, something's not right here? How many of those?
I wasn't a therapist when I dated either of them. I think I have two. One for sure had more traits of it than full blown, and then I think one was full blown like narcissistic, like everything is about me and you will do whatever I say and I will never apologize for my actions, which is a direct quote that he told me one time.
I love that.
He told me he would never apologize for anything that he did because he never did anything wrong, and I was like,
interesting.
And that that should have been the point where
was it producer Justin?
No. No, I would now I would say go fuck yourself and I would leave. Back then, I didn't do that. You think that that was a flag, and I should have been
we've all been there.
I feel very ashamed to think about it now because I'm like, current me would say, what is wrong
What is
with
going
you?
on here?
And so yes, that was a direct quote. And I'll never apologize. I will never
Okay.
apologize for anything that I do because nothing that I do is ever wrong.
Anyone
I'm
who
like, "Oh."
uses an absolute already, you're
Yes, 100%.
right. Always,
yes.
never.
If I can give advice
Yeah.
to the children who listen to this podcast,
Yeah.
yeah.
If
date
you hear an
somebody,
absolute, get out.
Bye.
Goodbye.
It should have been
Bye-bye.
that. It should have been it. But so probably one for sure. Full
Okay.
blown. Halvesy.
Halvesy.
1.5 maybe.
1.5.
What about you?
I for sure one that I think, yeah, for sure one, who would not listen to this podcast. So I'm sure I have a
I don't
couple
think-
listening. So
yeah, I don't think mine would.
well, but
Haters.
none that I've like dated long term. But I've definitely run into a few that I'm like, oh, okay, oopsies, oh no, whoopsie daisies. But
We can't have this.
We
This is
can't
bad.
have this.
This is bad.
I think the better question is, how many of those men who have dated me have gone,
What have they thought about me?
what do they
in
think about me?
return?
What do they think?
I think, yeah. I wonder the same thing sometimes, but then I think I'm not as
I
bad
think
as
we're
that.
fine.
I think
No,
we're
I
okay.
think we're fine.
We're beautiful, humble, professional, ethical,
Charismatic,
charismatic, unique.
unique, talent, charisma.
Exactly. Just all of those things. So, yeah.
Well, it's been a pleasure,
Yes,
everybody.
It's been fun. We have one more.
We have one more
installment in the
installment.
Persona Disorder trilogy. So next episode you'll
Yeah.
get to listen about Cluster C.
Cluster C. We'll see you then.
Yes.
Oh, we'll see you then.
We'll see. Puns upon puns on this
Puns.
podcast. We'll see
Oh.
you.
This is a fun
then.
pod. Come on.
Yeah, laugh everyone.
All right.
Okay,
Take us
We'll
out.
be done. Okay, bye.
Bye.